So, first and foremost, you've seen it, but you've never got them.
Yeah.
So here's your official Mortgage Bowl box.
Thank you so much.
There you go. And you're actually the first person to get Sal's newly designed tank tops.
Wow.
So I don't know if you're a size, I imagine you're a size small, right?
I am.
Okay.
This is perfect to work out.
There you go. So you get to try it on and send us a pic.
Yeah, for sure.
Limited edition. Sal's telling her it's the first person
Tank
to
top
get.
swag.
Yeah.
Sal wears them and they're really dope.
I wear them all the time. I wear them to belly
Yeah.
dancing, to the gym.
They're perfect for the gym. It's such good material.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They almost feel like they're Lululemon, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what you were going for?
What was that?
Lululemon is what you were going for?
Yeah, I mean that's just like the type of tank tops that, like even this shirt right here that I'm wearing to
Yeah.
work, I like that material. It's
Yeah.
really just
Soft
comfortable.
and- yeah.
There you go. We have Krysten here with Broker Nation. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, of course. I'm a real estate, I'm like a sales associate.
Yes.
I've been in real estate for 4 years as an active agent. My first deal was actually April 2020, the beginning of the pandemic and the crazy market. I was an assistant before that, so I did get some experience. I've been an active agent ever since. I love it. I don't see myself doing anything else, to be honest.
Have you been with Broker Nation since the very beginning of your real estate journey?
No, I started off at a small brokerage. It was with this broker named Juan Alvarez. He was very one-on-one. I'm very grateful for him always because he taught me a lot. It was literally just me, him, and his wife out of his apartment.
Interesting.
He taught me everything. He has over like 12 years of experience, so I worked with him for a bit. I was at Compass also for a bit, and then Broker Nation, and I've been at Broker Nation for over 3 years now.
Okay, so for the first year you tried a few things.
Yeah, first year and a half or so.
Gotcha. Juan Alvarez, is that guy with Blockhouse Real Estate?
Yes.
Is that him? That's the
Yeah,
guy?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So now I think he's grown. He has a few more agents
Yeah,
now, right?
no,
He's,
he
with
just
Mega's apartment.
did a really big deal recently at like a $15 million deal.
Nice.
in
He was always promoting like crypto and
Currency,
like,
yeah.
right? Is he still
I
big
don't
on
know if
that?
he's still doing that. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
I remember I spoke to him a while ago. We used to do some stuff together. That's awesome. So what's good about Broker Nation?
What's good about Broker Nation is obviously the commission split.
Maybe first and foremost.
First and foremost,
Yes.
100%. I've always been part of very like mom and pop businesses even before I started real estate. So it's a smaller brokerage. I can call my broker whenever. He's actually a family friend as well. So I'm really comfortable there. I just feel at home there.
You know, I've heard that a lot because my buddy Miguel used to work at Broker Nation too, and he says Armando makes it seem like he's connected to all the agents on the sales
Mhm.
level too. How many agents does Broker Nation have currently?
So we have a North Miami office and a Doral office. I think in total it's like 100.
100 agents. So I mean, that's pretty cool for them to be able to stay.
I don't know if everyone is
connected.
totally active.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are kind of part-time.
Yeah.
But as far as like a core group, I would probably say like 30 agents.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And do you know how he's able to like support you guys in that way? I mean, it's 30 agents, is still quite a few agents to be able to feel tight with.
Yeah, I mean, he stays in contact with us, and he is like, you can call him whenever. On the weekend, late at night, he always picks up. It's him and another guy, Daylon, that runs the Doral office, and they're both super nice, super reachable. We actually had a webinar yesterday about the whole MLS, compensation law that's going to take into effect this month.
Mhm.
So, yeah, they're very hands-on.
Yeah, awesome. So 3 years with Broker Nation, breaking them down into year 1, 2, and 3. How were those years for you? How happened those years for you?
I will say year 1, 2021 is obviously amazing.
Yeah.
I think for everyone in real estate, I wish I would have gotten into real estate like a little bit sooner just so I had more experience when that crazy market happened.
Yeah.
2022 was an okay year. 2023 was my best year yet.
Nice.
Trying to make 2024 top that one. So hopefully I'm on the right track. I think I am. I will say I think this past year is the first year where I see myself a lot more on the listing side. When I first started in real estate, it was mainly on the buyer side.
Mhm.
So that's a nice switch. I mean, they're both a lot of work, like especially sellers that want a crazy price for their house and it's just a not realistic thing, and
Yeah.
then buyers that want to negotiate everything and see 45 houses. But now is when I'm starting to feel like I have more referrals or repeat clients. Like I have a few clients already that purchased with me back in 2020 or 2021, and I'm now seeing more more transactions out of them again, which is nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So one source of your business is repeat business, but where does the rest of your business come from?
Mostly referrals. I've done it all. I mean, I've cold called, I've door knocked, I've sent out blast messages, I've sent mailers, but lately it's been referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And referrals just from friends and family, or referrals from your colleagues?
Referrals from friends and family and past clients as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to also pay for like Zillow leads and stuff like that, but I didn't see that much come out of it. I will say in 2021, yes, but then kind of just died out and got really expensive too.
Yeah. And you mentioned you're both kind of a listing and a buyer's agent both at the same time, and I think in seeing your transactions and stuff like that, I think it's almost equal really that you're doing that. So you prefer the listing side, or you're trying to increase your listing volume moving forward in 2024 and beyond, or you're trying to increase your buyer's side, or both?
To be honest, especially now with the new law going into place, I prefer to stay on the listing side.
Okay.
Although I am very passionate when it comes to buyers and finding them their forever home or a great investment. Like, I do love that side as well, because it's just so refreshing, and you feel so accomplished like when you do find them the right place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely very passionate about that too. Like, I will never shy away from buyers, but I do like the listing side.
Gives you more stability, more of an end goal,
Yeah.
Yeah, so speaking of listing versus buying, we took some notes here to discuss a very important topic, which is the NAR settlement happening August 17th. So let's just dive straight into the meat and potatoes of this. So based off these notes, I mean, it asks for what the reason for the settlement is. So I know you haven't read these yet, but do you know at all what the reason for the settlement is?
Yeah, there was a class action lawsuit for it. Basically, they were like overpaying. It was like a bunch of sellers they formed like this class action lawsuit of overpaying their realtors their commission, and it turned into a huge thing, and NARS didn't want to settle with them. I think I want to say it was like $500 million. So it's going to be a big game changer, especially in Miami, and I think it's taking into effect in California as well.
So root cause of the settlement, you're saying, is the fact that there was unjust compensation, or sellers felt there was unjust compensation for the buyer side in general.
Yeah.
And NAR's response to that was essentially they have to pay out a settlement and institute some new rules moving forward. So what are some of those new rules that you've heard about?
So some of those new rules, you can no longer offer compensation on the MLS. So now when you go on the MLS and you look up a listing, you see what the listing agent is making and what you're making off the transaction.
Right.
That's not going to happen anymore. Now, even to just start showing properties to a buyer, you need to have a buyer broker agreement.
Right.
Which, for the most part, I will say 90% of buyers or realtors have never used that in the past. There is already some type of agreement like that, but they've never really used it. I've never made a buyer sign one. So now you have to have it, and you cannot get paid a commission without having that.
Yeah, I've noticed, I used to see agents implement the buyer's agreement, but most of them, like you said, 90%. For me, I think it was more like 30% of agents that we saw did and 70% didn't. So why do you think people used to use that in the past, or not, or why did you not use it, I guess?
Why did I not use it? I am a handshake type of girl, which I've just always been that way. I've always been a woman of my word. I can't say I sit here and say I haven't gotten screwed over by buyers before, but I will say for the most part, they've continued to work with me throughout the whole process, whether the process takes 2 months to a year.
Yeah.
So that's, for me personally, that's why I've never made them sign one.
So you haven't had a need for it, essentially.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And moving forward now, it's going to be a requirement, or is it going to be if there is no agreement in place, you're essentially forfeit your commission?
I believe now it's a requirement. We had a meeting yesterday with our attorney and our broker, and apparently they're going to start even fining agents if you don't have that agreement. So if you're representing the buyer and you're submitting your transaction, all your paperwork, but you don't have that buyer broker's agreement, you can now get paid a commission. And there will be fines, apparently up to $5,000 from what I've heard.
Gotcha. Okay. So pre-August 17th versus post-August 17th. So pre, you have a buyer that you're working with on a handshake agreement. You're sourcing properties for them in different ways, also through the MLS. you log into that property's website or listing and you see, okay, here's what the seller's offering the buyer's agent, the listing agent, and details of the transaction, right? So then you show the property contingent upon those terms and conditions being applicable to the contract. Now, August 17th and beyond, we're not going to see anything about compensation on the MLS. So how do we go from there? What's the next step there? How do you find out, what's going on?
Yeah, so you're gonna have to contact the listing agent.
Okay.
And you're gonna have to get an agreement between the seller and yourself, the buyer's agent. And it's gonna show how much they're gonna pay you, if they're offering anything at all. But you need to have multiple agreements now.
Yeah.
Like at first it was just the listing agent has a listing agreement and they have the total commission and how it's gonna be split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. Now the buyer's agent needs to have an agreement with the seller as well when you get to that point.
Right.
So it's gonna be kind of tricky because there's buyers that I have shown like 30 plus properties to. How am I gonna get an agreement for every single one?
Yeah.
And now with the buyer broker agreement, you're gonna have to list everything you're gonna do for that person and exactly how much you're gonna be paid for it, which has always changed, because for example, I had a buyer that I was working with in like $400,000 range, but then she ended up purchasing in the $600,000 range. So obviously that commission changes. So I'm not really sure how that's gonna play out.
So you're saying it's got to be a fixed dollar amount versus a percentage?
That's what I've heard.
Potentially.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
potentially, yes.
unknowns, I think, of all this
There's
stuff.
a lot of unknowns, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And is the vibe in Broker Nation or just your colleagues in general, buyers agents or any agents in general, that most listing brokers are still going to be able to offer full compensation like it has been, or is the vibe like they're not going to, but it'll be rare when they do, or what's been the sentiment among the agents in Miami?
We don't know yet, honestly.
Yeah.
But it kind of like worries me too, because I feel like a lot of listing agents are gonna try to just double end everything.
Yeah.
But they still need to have a buyer broker agreement if they are gonna represent both parties.
Yeah.
And you kind of just lose your fiduciary responsibility at that point, because the seller was your client first, so there's definitely a good amount of non-ethical agents out there that might, just try to get double the commission no matter what it takes.
Yeah. And I think one of the implications of this process is agents may shy away from buyer side transactions, and like you mentioned at the beginning of this video, try to focus on listing side, just from a fiscal, we all need to eat and we all need to make money, and this is a career for everybody. So what other implications do you see for agents from this process?
What do you mean?
Like, for example, do you see gonna be like, do you think a lot of people are gonna stop kind of working on the buyer side and there's gonna be more competition on the listing side? Do you think that this might strengthen some people's interest in buyer because now there's an actual agreement in place, so there's no wishy-washiness, I guess, from people coming in?
I think the upside of this is that it's gonna weed out a lot of lazy agents. Because there's a lot of people, I've been on the listing side and I'll receive an offer of a buyer's agent and I'm just like, how did you even get a license? It's like you're marking up a paper in school.
Right.
So I think it's gonna weed out a lot of lazy agents, which is good. And now buyers are really gonna have to interview agents or check their profiles. I think now if you do work with a lot of buyers, now is the time to like build your presence, get reviews from all your past clients. Like now they're gonna be searching you up on Zillow, on Realtor.com, and just seeing why they're gonna work with you and not someone else.
Yeah. A lot of the times when somebody is looking for a property, they might just refer to their friend or their family member and say, hey, can you send an offer for this for me? Because there's really no skin in the game, I guess, for the buyer. They don't have any fiduciary duties to their agent, and essentially just like, well, I'm not paying for it anyways, so, it is what it is kind of thing. Versus now, it seems like the buyers are going to have to step up and make commitments to collaborate with somebody exclusively, but also potentially to pay out of pocket for that person.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think is going to be a big change for everybody. Do you see buyers slowing down their interest in buying altogether because of something like this?
I feel like some people are getting the wrong impression that it's gonna make sellers reduce their price, but I don't think that's gonna happen. And I also think it's a weird time right now because it's also an election year.
Yeah.
And usually people want to see how the election pans out before purchasing property.
Yeah.
So it's weird times.
No, for sure. Do you foresee yourself having to cut your commissions to work with certain people?
100%.
And how will you be able to decide,
What's fair and what's not?
Yeah.
I think it goes with how much work.
Yeah.
I mean, I seriously have had buyers that I've worked with for 2+ years before I close them,
Yeah.
So.
It's going to be hard to be able to determine or to predict that though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And is this agreement something that can be adjusted as it goes? Did they tell you in your guys' meeting, or is it
No,
just
they
something?
they didn't tell us. I definitely need to get more informed on that.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of trial and error, I think, for like the next 6 months.
Yeah. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of differences in different buyers agents in terms of your expertise, what you do for somebody, what you don't do for somebody. So you've been a buyer's agent pretty consistently over the past several years. Can you pinpoint some of the value adds that somebody like you can bring to a buyer? Like, I know we're working on a buyer together right now, and I know all the value adds that you bring to him and to other people that you've worked with, but can you quantify those for people that might be watching this? Like, why is one buyer's agent better than the other? Something like that.
Yeah, I think a couple ways that one buyer's agent is better than the other is always having their best interest and just connecting with the person and feeling that trust and that connection immediately.
Yeah.
Versus someone that's just trying to sell you the highest purchase price that you could possibly do for no reason.
Yeah.
Or walking into a house that completely is falling apart and they're like, no, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And someone who truly knows the market, I would say I do, and I was born and raised in Miami, and I know where to buy, where not to buy, what's good, what's not, what I see increasing in value over the years, what I don't see increasing in value over the years.
Yeah.
So I think I am very knowledgeable when it comes to the market and very trustworthy. And I think that's what's made me stand out from most people, and also that I'm always on call, no matter what.
Availability.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a very important set of three. Availability, knowledge, and trustworthiness is real important. How would somebody know that though about an agent? Because we got a lot of people that are watching that are renting right now. Like, okay, shit. So now I'm gonna look into buying now, and I gotta build in this cost. So now it's gonna be a much more serious thing. It's not just gonna be like, hey, who do you know? It's gonna be, so how do these people do their due diligence on you or on anybody else?
Definitely could check my track record.
Yeah, look at past
I
transactions.
would say that past reviews, referrals, maybe someone knows someone that's already purchased with me or sold with me, etc.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for those watching, looking at people's past reviews, maybe asking about past transactions, those are really great ways to be able to determine those key factors, which Krysten mentioned, which I think are going to be being trustworthy, being available, and having local market experience, because that could end up saving you a lot more money than the potential fee that you're going to end up paying on buyer's agent and online presence and stuff like that. Cool. Outside of this settlement, how have you seen the Miami real estate market over the past 7 or so months in 2024?
I would say, at least for me, the first quarter of the year was pretty slow. The second quarter was amazing.
Yeah.
And even the beginning of summer, which summer right now, at least for me and a lot of agents, is really slow. But June 2024 was amazing.
Yeah.
I do see a lot more inventory coming up, and on the rental market as well, and mostly in the condo market. Actually, there's a lot of inventory in the condo market. So I think things are kind of slow right now.
So when people ask Krysten, like, is now a good time to buy? What's your typical response to them?
I will say that now is a good time because you can negotiate more, because there's like a lot of inventory. There's more motivated sellers in the summertime. So now if you want to negotiate more and see what the best deal you can get out there is a good time. I don't see like the rates really dropping much. I mean, you can tell me what your prediction is.
Yeah.
Because people are always worried about the rates, but they kind of been above that 5.5% for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It really just depends on the situation.
Yeah. Good answer. Because we get that question, I think, every single day. And the answer that we personally give on the lending side to our buyers, it's always going to depend. And then, okay, what does that mean? Does it really help me? And me, what the question that you guys asked you, is it a good time or not? So I sit down and say, let's find that out. And how do we find that out? We find that out by running the numbers, getting some loan estimates out, making sure that number one, you do qualify, as well. And then a lot of times people have these ideas or these plans on what they want to do or what makes sense for them, but they don't actually map it out. And what I mean by that is they might say, hey, we're gonna wait until rates drop. In which case, okay, everybody's really has their own opinions and only you know yourself best, but I think it's important to map out what that looks like.
Yeah.
So if we're looking, okay, so rates dropping, so let's, for your own benefit, what rate are you looking for? Okay, at 5%. All right, so let's play a projection. So once we get to that 5% rate, what do you anticipate the rest of the stuff? What's the value of the property gonna be when the rates are 5%? How much money are you gonna have when the rates are 5%? Because a lot of the times, if you're only paying attention to, let's say, what the rate's gonna be, then if you don't also project, prices are gonna increase no matter what, whether rates go up or down, but most likely if they go down, the prices are gonna go up. So people are looking as rates coming down as I wanna lower payments. I wanna pay less per month, less interest, okay. So what does that look like at a 5% rate in the future versus a 7% rate today? And sometimes that it might be the exact same payment. And then you say, okay, well, my idea was to try to save money. So if I'm not saving money, what's next? What about competition or being able to pick exactly what I want? Well, it might be less competitive now than it's going to be in the future. So if the payments are going to be the same regardless and the competition is less now, that might change your idea of what you want to do. Or it might not. But it's important as agents and as lenders, I think it's important for us to give our clients the opportunity to find out what their scenarios look like in the future versus just to hold on to, I want prices to go down, I want rates to go down or something like that, because 9 times out of 10, they don't look at the specifics of what it's gonna look like. And then once they get there, then they have a whole new set of challenges.
Yeah.
Because the payment still isn't where it's at because all they were paying attention to was the rate going down or the rate coming up or whatever it is. So I think it's important for us as kind of real estate professionals to tell our clients to give themselves the opportunity to understand what the situation looks like that they're shooting for. Because sometimes that target that they're aiming for might not be the actual goals that they're looking for. It might just be one of the cogs in the machine that gets them to where they want to be.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case scenario.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case scenario. Can you think back to, you've only been doing this for 3 or 4 years, but what's been a transaction that's really stood out to you as enjoyable, fun? If you can think of the best one, great, but I know it's hard to pick a best one, but what about a really, really awesome one that you've been a part of?
I will say there's multiple.
Yeah.
I will say there's one in particular that I'm sure if they watch this, they're gonna laugh. It's like my old boss, before I even started real estate, and his wife and her daughter, and it was very fun. It took a very long time, and it was during the most competitive time in Miami. It was all of 2021, and we started in January, and from like January to March, things just went crazy.
Yeah.
And we probably saw 50 houses. But I just loved hanging out with them so much, and like they were dying for this house, and I felt so accomplished when I finally sold them a house like 10 months later. And I swear I was seeing them twice a week. Until this day, I'll just randomly text them like, I miss seeing you guys every week.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, getting clients that you love to see and work with makes this job a whole lot easier for sure.
Yeah, that was for sure my favorite transaction.
What did they end up buying?
A property in Miami Shores.
Yeah, single family home.
Yeah, single family.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're happy that you got them that house.
Oh yeah, they're ecstatic. They love that house.
3 years later, I'm sure they got some equity in that.
Yeah, I got invited for dinners after that.
Yeah, that's awesome. In general terms, what was the value of that property around that time versus what do you think it is now?
It was $1,075,000 at the time. Now it's probably worth 1.4, 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a solid, maybe almost $400K of appreciation in
3 years. Yeah.
So about $100,000 a year worth of income just by pulling the trigger, right?
They did some upgrades.
Yeah.
Like new kitchen. I think they did some new flooring too. But it's a great property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a very uncommon appreciation, I think, especially in South Florida. And a lot of times the buyers that are holding off on purchasing today are holding off because of a comparison between what that property rents for versus what the property's mortgage is. And it could be that property is $1,000 or $2,000 a month more to purchase versus rent. But then in the situation that we just talked about with a potential $100,000 a year appreciation, that boils down to $8,000 a month worth of potential appreciation. So I always try to paint that picture to our buyers as well, which is even if you're losing $2,000 a month on that property, your net gain is still around $6,000 a month for that property, aside from other benefits too, and taxes and things like that. So that's a really, I think, smart way of looking at things sometimes. It's really trying to amortize the appreciation of something versus just worrying about cash flow, because at the end of the day, you're going to buy something and you're going to sell something and all your expenses will be calculated, but I think the most important part is what you get to keep.
Yeah,
right?
buy and hold.
Buy and hold. And even in small periods of time. Like 3 years is not a long time to have something until you're able to pull out probably most of your net worth out of something like that. It's not an insignificant amount of money.
Yeah, and I think even now, just purchasing, there's still a ton of people coming to Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, if you purchase something that you feel like, I'm barely breaking even, I think it's still worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have an optimistic outlook on the future. On the flip side, maybe one of the last questions I'm going to ask, what about a transaction that you were really glad it was over?
There's been a few of those. I mean, another couple, good friends of mine, they'll probably see this too. They follow me on Instagram. Yeah. They'll probably laugh because, wow, we shed blood, sweat, and tears together. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Tell me more.
It was a new construction townhome in Fort Lauderdale. They were living in Texas at the time. We actually went under contract with 3 different properties.
Okay.
One was in Shenandoah. Another one was near Shenandoah. I forgot the neighborhood. And then they decided to go to Fort Lauderdale. It was new construction. We were like, great. That was my first new construction transaction. So the contracts were different. The process was different. The general contractor was a hot mess, and so was the broker of the seller.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't get in contact with these people for weeks. They were in Texas, so I would drive by the property like once a week or every 2 weeks just to check on the progress.
Yeah.
And it would still be the same. And they had to move from Texas, get an Airbnb for like 2 months. This was all from, I want to say June or July. We didn't close until I think about January.
6 months.
Yeah, under contract.
Wow.
I just imagine sitting on edge waiting for your house to be finished. They said it was going to be ready in August, end of August. It wasn't ready until like January. And then when it was ready, there was a ton of problems.
Oh, wow.
With the roof, them not finishing baseboards, there was just so many corners cut, and this GC was a nightmare. He was so bad to work with. He was just completely MIA. There was a punch list of 30 something items to get fixed. We had to hold money back in escrow for a year until they fixed all the items, which I don't even think they finished fixing them. They ended up giving the escrow to the buyers. But yeah, we were all thank God it's over.
That's crazy. So I think that was a combination of, well, I guess more importantly, how does somebody make something like that better? It's having a really great team on both sides of the transaction is a very important thing. It doesn't matter how good you are if the listing or selling side is non-responsive, inexperienced, because that can ruin a whole transaction. I'm sure it has in the past ruined a transaction for you, right?
But on the bright side, that property, it was also during 2021.
Yeah. So
we were like, because we could have canceled the contract at any time during those months that it wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And it's the seller wanted us to cancel because he knew he was able to get more money. So.
Okay, so maybe that was some underlying motivation.
Yeah, exactly.
They wanted them to pull out.
So now that property is worth, I think, $250,000 more than what they bought it for, and now they just added a little punch bowl. They actually just sent me a photo last week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Another thing too, not to your fault, but just it's a different process with new construction versus with resale.
Mm-hmm.
So the contracts are different, the process is different, and it just goes to show how important it is to have experience overall.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people go into resale transactions without having experience, and for you it's like another day at work because you've done them so often. But for agents that don't do transactions very often, they can experience those same trials and tribulations and pitfalls because of how many different checks and balances with inspections, with appraisals, with contracts, with lending, financing, all that stuff, is that if you don't know how to navigate it, that could turn into a problem. So going back to the experience piece of it, it's not just about having how long you've been an agent, but it's about how many times you've gone through these transactions, because then you can implement all these systems and processes you have with all your buyers, and that's the true value that you're providing to them, and that's the value that they are going to be paying for in the future, and that's what we mean by experience, not necessarily the amount of time, but the amount of experience you experience.
And
with
you
these
learn
things.
something new in every transaction.
Yep, 100%.
Every single one.
Every single transaction, and it's like, well, how is that possible? Well, it's because it's not a revelation, but it's like, oh, this can happen before this, or that can happen before that, and you culminate all these little things, and you're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be unknowns, but it's better to have 90% of the information already in your pocket and continue to evolve and learn, versus to have 50% of information in your pocket and to leave 50% of the chance.
I don't want that to discourage new agents either, like working with buyers though, because I feel like as long as you're hungry and you're motivated and you ask for help when you need it versus trying to figure it out by yourself when it comes to writing a contract especially, you know, you have your resources. You have other agents you can ask at your brokerage, you have your broker, some people have like attorneys on hand that they can ask. So I think as long as, you know, you're motivated and you ask for help when it's needed versus making yourself look dumb or screwing up with your buyer and, you know, writing something incorrect on the contract and then they're screwed at the end and they have to come up with all this money or you know whatever it might be. I think that's important too.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. So I think also when you're working with a new agent, I don't think it's difficult or it's out of your kind of character to just even do some of the stuff they're supposed to do, because obviously you want the transaction to close, but also you've been there before. Right, you've been there before, and you've been in situations where you didn't know exactly what needs to happen. So I think agents need to also understand that the listing and the buyer's agents, they do want to work together, and they're eager and hungry to collaborate, because the more collaboration, the better it's going to be, and the higher likelihood this is going to close, and that there's not going to be any nuances with, oh, he wants an inspection credit, but I don't really want to give it to him, so they'll be much more willing to kind of lend a helping hand, and you just like you said, have to ask for it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're on different sides, we're on the same side.
Exactly. You all have the same goal.
Yeah. Good job. Thank you.